Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back on the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the quarterfinal of the DUBAI Sevens. We're currently watching the USA play the Australians, and they have been able to beat Australia there, USA, 24 points to 19. So that is a massive, massive win there. But looking through at this matchup, there are certainly a lot of intriguing battles out there on the park. New Zealand, France, for the Kiwis, they have got some very strong men in their starting lineup. Sam Dixon, Tony Nshu, Shay Clark gets himself the start in this game. He has been coming off the bench in a few of the other matches so far in Dubai. Joe Webber, Akuria Rokalisoa, Leroy Carter, and Caleb Tangi Tau. Then for France, it is going to be Legiao, Rebage, also Pesquet. Alongside him, Stephen Perez, Grandidier, Damon, and also Joseph Jefferson Lee. So that is the French side. They are going to be really looking forward to this contest because if they can take down the Kiwis here, they move on to the semi-final. Who's captaining New Zealand, Sam Whitelock or Kane? Neither of them. It is actually for this one, I believe, Sam Dixon is in charge of this All Black seven side, and USA beat Australia. Who wins this one, says Jack Lewis. Yes, so far we see Ireland, USA in one of the semi-finals. The winner of this game goes on to face off against the winner of South Africa versus Samoa. For me, I'm going New Zealand winner by 5. I think we saw just enough in their game up against Uruguay to suggest that they're starting to find a bit more form in the competition. And speaking of form, before that game up against Uruguay, they actually beat Fiji, missed out on making it through to the quarterfinals, which benefits Samoa because Samoa have always had Fiji as their dark horse side that they just can't quite beat. But now the opportunity is wide open for the Samoans if they can get past the South Africans. But looking through at the substitutes, it's going to be important when to make these subs. Amanaki Nicole and Regan Weir, two men who have been in the starting lineup for New Zealand, but they've decided to leave them off the field for the start. And then also, I would say, for the French, you're probably looking at Iragua and also Hayard as the two that could have the most impact. But the referee in charge of this one, the South African, Morne Ferreira, in charge of this game, Perez, will be kicking off for the French, going from right to left for the third of the quarterfinals that we have got for the DUBAI Sevens. Like I mentioned, already through to the semis, the USA and Ireland. Now, the Kiwis and France, they both want to book themselves their spot through to try and win in Dubai. But now, it is just about to kick us off. Looks like it's a relatively nice evening there, or in fact, it would be afternoon, sorry, I should say. Just coming into it about 11 or 12 a.m., but it's kicked off long. Rokalisoa takes it nicely for New Zealand. Being dangerous throughout the sevens competition, always has plenty of pace. After this, we cover England versus Pakistan last session. Unfortunately, we won't be able to because the semi-finals of the sevens will end up overlapping with that last session. So we have got that coming up on the channel as well. Shay Clark goes across. Akuria Rokalisoa looked like a bit of an injury there for one of the Kiwis already. Tony Nshu goes through, and now Grandidier going to be able to stop him. He finds the offload on the outside, but it didn't find the hands of Shay Clark. Now, does mean that the line-out will go the way of the French, but New Zealand already looking like they're going to be really aggressive in the way they attack, looking for offloads, looking for those line break opportunities up against Les Bleus. Now Stephen Perez about to throw the ball in. Legiao going to be lifted up. Nicely slapped back, you'd have to say. Yes, it was. They say there's a little knock-on against the Kiwis. And now France will have themselves the scrum. I should mention the next quarterfinal game that we are covering on the channel, ladies and gentlemen, will be the next matchup taking place between South Africa and Samoa. That is an 8:30, 4 p.m. kickoff, but we will be starting at around that 8:30 mark, only 16 minutes away from seeing that contest. Perez going to be feeding this ball into the scrum. So far, set piece wise, we've seen a lot more from France than we have from the Kiwis. And the running game that would go in favour of New Zealand. But Perez has to work hard to get that ball out from the bottom of the scrum. Now Grandidier tries to break his way through. Like they're saying, 11 tries in the Hong Kong Sevens competition, actually matched the highest ever scored in one competition in Hong Kong. Now a nice step on the wing for Pesquet. Now Perez once again goes across. Grandidier linking up nicely. Had the man on the outside, but he didn't decide to use him. Now Perez Back across, Legiel will be waiting for this one on the outside, and he does now receive the pass. 22 metres out now, France tries a little offload. No one was quite aware of what he was trying, though. Because of it, it almost ended up going the way of the Kiwis, and in fact, it does. Breakdown by Legiel, gets over the ball. Penalty goes the way of New Zealand, and Rokalisoa, takes the quick tap off to the right-hand side. Weber goes one more to Leroy Carter. Caleb Tangitao tries to break through the big tackle of Joseph Jefferson Lee. Rokalisoa back across to the left now for New Zealand. Sam Dixon steps on the inside. Offload out the back to Tony Nashu. And he does score the try for New Zealand. The first try of the contest. It did take 3 minutes. New Zealand have been inside of the French 50 metres for the whole of this first half. I don't think we've actually seen a proper French attack as of yet. New Zealand, though, have been able to find that another little sneaky offload. Like I mentioned, they'll be looking for it in this matchup because the French defence is always very strong. I'm going to find a way of making 2-on-1s. And who was in the other knockout game, says Hanoi. So we have already seen USA versus Australia. That was the most recent game. USA winning that game 24 points to 19 in favour of the United States. So they go through to the next match, and they will be playing Argentina, who are able to beat their opposition Ireland. They will be playing Ireland, who were able to beat Argentina 19 points to 14. So a couple close games overall. 5 points difference in both of them. Rokalisoa kicks it off high, waiting for this, taking it nicely, looking straight into the sky and the sun for Damon. Now Legiel going off once again to Grandier. Goes on the outside. Joseph Jefferson Lee. Lee Joseph, as they are calling him. It's going to be the penalty in favour of Caleb Tangitao. Locks himself over the ball. Signed up for the Blues for next season of Super Rugby Pacific. Also going to be a very exciting prospect. And cool, go the Irish. There's Hanoi. And then also I should mention on the women's side of the draw, we have seen a few interesting results. Overall, one of the matches is going to be New Zealand versus the USA. That is going to be one semi-final. And then on the other side, it will be France versus Australia. The Fijians missing out in their contest up against Australia, 38 points to 21. Jay Clark ended up landing on his face. Has he hurt his shoulder in the process, Jay Clark? No, he hasn't. He's back up to his feet. Should be all right. Back over the ball, but they had the advantage. And now they will be going back for the initial scrum. So it's just that little bit of extra pressure we're seeing from France. Scores New Zealand to try and force that offload. Of course, it's going to be there for the taking if you decide to go with it. Shay Clark had us in his hands and then ends up just slipping out slightly. But the USA women versus Ireland, that game actually only 5-0, one of the lowest scoring sevens games we have seen in recent times. And all right, boss, feeling well, says Sebastian. I'm not doing too badly. For the lack of sleep that I have had for myself, I've already been bowling today. That actually went very well the first round. Second round, still not too bad. But yeah, I've been out and about with Isaac and George. We've learned that the podcast, they are coming around at 7:45 a.m. on Sunday morning, which is tomorrow morning, for us to be able to film. That's the only time everyone is available. So I think we've got, I would say, another 14 to 15 hours of being awake from now. And then we will be able to get a little bit of an afternoon quick nap before the final day of West Indies versus Australia. Legiel once again with a nice step, breaking the line for the French. They need a try before the end of the first half if they want a real chance of going through and winning this contest. Pass on the outside to Grandier, the try scoring machine from Hong Kong. Aldamon goes off to Legiel, bringing up his 80th sevens competition. Perez close to the line. Dixon over the ball, though. Wins the penalty for New Zealand. And I believe the plan for the Dixon and the Kiwis here will be to slow this ball down, kick it into touchdown field, and just use up a little bit more time because France are really right in this contest at the moment. That was their first real attacking opportunity, and boy, did they look dangerous in the process. Rokalisoa making sure that kick goes into touch. That will be about 22 metres out from the line there, but that was brilliant work from Legiel and Perez, a couple of the more experienced players in this French side linking up. But the problem is, for Perez, it was just a great tackle from Joe Weber. Got him around the bootlaces. And that caused that little mistake. New Zealand with the free kick given against them. They did a little pump as if they were going to be going for the line out, but they did get it wrong. And now France have got one last chance from 22 metres out. What does Perez do here? He takes the quick tap, goes off to the right-hand side. Back to Perez. Nice little overlap between him and Rebage. Offload from Perez to Legiao. Now Grandidier almost goes in. Nice work over the ball. New Zealand win the turnover. Now they're 5 metres out from their own line. Do they go for the quick tap and run down the field? Or, yeah, they're going to take the step and kick it into touch by the looks of it. Making sure that all the players are back the 10 metres, and that one's gone into touch. New Zealand leading this one at halftime 5-0. And also, we're there possibly the biggest reunion since Kim Kong, Gaddafi, and Margaret Thatcher reunited in session. And just walking, how we doing, says Spider-Mick. It's a close game at the moment between these two sides. New Zealand narrowly with the leading margin, I should say, sitting 5 points to 0. Also, I should also say, I'm saying also way too much. That's the word that I'm trying to take out of my vocabulary, but it just keeps on sneaking back in. But yeah, I'm going to be looking at this West Indies versus Australia game as well while this one's going on. Also, Pakistan versus England, or as I like to call it, the game being played on a road. Both sides just scoring an insane amount of runs on that turf. 84 for none at the moment. The West Indies sit as they have just returned from the tea break, but currently halftime. Playing Ireland in the semi-final, USA have made themselves pretty proud, being able to beat Samoa earlier on, then beating Ireland. Sorry, not beating Ireland, but maybe beating Ireland in the semi, who knows? But they beat Australia, which was one of the top sides, to draw with Kenya. Also found themselves losing to South Africa, so not the best series, or at least few matches in a row for the Australians. But New Zealand, they want to work hard. And Windies defending draw. How many have they lost in their second innings? They are still 84 for none. So no wickets lost as of yet. But it's still going to be tricky. They look like they are going more for the draw. But when Nathan Lyon's been bowling, they've been attacking him a little bit just to try and mix it up. But here's one for you, Sebastian. Marnus Labuschagne in the bowling attack. That's not the funny part. Well, not the funny part, but the weird part. He's bowling medium pace. He's getting them down there about 120 Ks. Now, we still have a chance. But I mean, if we're talking about France, yes, they certainly do still have a good chance of being able to win this matchup. But France are going to make it tough, that is for sure. Whistle is blown by the referee, and now we are ready to go for the second half of the Sevens matchup, ladies and gentlemen. Rockali Soa kicks it. I believe it's actually a little bit of a mistake from Damon there. New Zealand taking the quick line out throw. Nice step from Rockali Soa. Get on the acceleration going. That is definitely one that's going on the highlight reel for Rockali Soa. He scores the try. He just stepped around 4 different players with a little goosey every single time. And Rockali Soa into by lighting it up for the New Zealanders. Carl Tanana saying he can't wait to see the replay. I think the world wants to see this one more time. Rockali Soa, step around Perez, step around Legal, step around Ravage, and then just runs it in. Run Didier, unable to catch him. Labuschagne is leg spin usually, isn't he? He is. So apparently he's got a better record with pace than he does with leg spin when playing for Queensland. So yeah, he's getting them down there about 120. Not a terrible line in length either, so I don't know whether or not they'll continue with him bowling the leg spin or whether they'll go pace throughout the rest of the session. It's hard to tell. But they're missing Pat Cummins. He's got a bit of an injury, so that is why they've had to go with Labuschagne with a bit of spin. Or sorry, with a bit of pace, I should say. Sorry. Going to be kicked by New Zealand. Doesn't go the 10. Now Shea Clark, rather than jumping on that one, allows France to take it. And because of it, New Zealand get themselves a penalty. Every time the breakdown happens, New Zealand are winning penalties, making it extremely tough. Shea Clark about to take the quick tap. The last 5 penalties have all been against the French. New Zealand doing well in terms of not giving away any disciplinary errors. Joe Weber, nice inside ball to Dixon. Now goes off to Rockali Soa. This time gets it off to Shea Clark rather than tearing through that French defensive line. Sam Dixon off to the right. Weber goes to Leroy Carter. He was in the starting lineup, but hardly saw him in the first half. Tony Nashu finds the offload to Carter now. He spent a bit of time playing for the Bay of Plenty, the Bunnings NBC not too long ago. Tangetau Now it goes off to Dixon Rokalisoa. Once again, starting to step through the defenders. Tangitel goes off to Nashu. One more pass to Weber. They've got numbers on the outside. Zhao is there. It looks forward to Leroy Carter. He's going to score the try, but it was debatably a flat pass. That's going to be another try for New Zealand. 17 points to 0. The Kiwis find themselves over France now. You have to say it's almost at the stage of feeling comfortable enough to be able to win this game. And also, wherever their 5 minutes are so long on sevens, there's no short on 15. Says no, I'm exactly right in the world of sevens. Absolutely, like, you've got plenty of time. We could see 4 or 5 tries in that 5 minutes. I would have thought France would be better at sevens. They're normally quite strong. Like, in their warm-up games, I believe, who have France played so far? I'm not actually too sure who they've beaten, but they're a top side. Like, they finished 3rd in Hong Kong, ranked pretty high overall, so they'll be playing off for a possible 5th place if this is the way that it continues to go. But currently, New Zealand, the series tries, they're actually mixing them up quite nicely. It's off the tap that they get the most of their tries. 12 of their tries have come that way. Also, the set piece, actually only 8, whereas a lot of other teams have had the set piece. Oh, okay, 2 players ran into each other there. France have now got the ball, though. They go to the short side. Now starting to run down the wing. Good work from Leroy Carter, forces them into touch. And now New Zealand have got themselves another line out. France just don't seem to be able to quite click the way that they needed to be able to take down New Zealand here. They're making subs. See on whether or not that will help. It's going to be Hoyard coming on the field also for New Zealand. Kurt Baker makes his way out onto the field for Tony Nashu. He's had a solid game. And the black kit, also, I see Dorian making his way onto the field. So France actually making quite a few changes here, seeing whether or not that will help them in the later stages of the game. But Amanaki Nicole also on the field for New Zealand. So everyone's decided they might as well make their subs now. Sam Dixon wins the line out for New Zealand. Amanaki Nicole now goes back across for Kurt Baker. Wide pass to Regan Weir. Steps around one, tackled by the other. Leroy Carter, pressure on him. Nice work from Amanaki Nicole, though, to link up and have the option for the pass available. Regan Weir looked to the left. There wasn't anything on. Now it's going to be Weber. Carves up the middle. Finds the offload up to Amanaki Nicole. Just keeping inside of the field by a tightrope length. Another penalty for New Zealand. Looks like Kurt Baker will consider kicking this one into touch. If I was New Zealand here, I would probably go scrum, to be honest. It looks like they're going to tap it, though. No, they will go for the line out. Using up a little bit of time on the clock. But yeah, with the scrum, sometimes with the scrum reset, you can actually find yourself using up more time than what a line out would. Kurt Baker walking up. No hurry at all. He's not even jogging to the ball. Now about to throw it in New Zealand, just dawdling up to the line out, you'd have to say. Looking like they'll throw it into Dixon. Takes it nicely. Now offloads it back up to Amanaki Nicole. An advantage in favour of New Zealand as well. Weber hits it at the line. Great work over the ball from France, but sadly for them, does mean that they do have to go back for that initial penalty again. Now New Zealand will once again kick this for the corner. Using up a little bit more time. 14 blue. I think 14 blue is going to be going to the bin now. Joseph Jefferson Lee now is going to find himself off the field for the rest of that. That's not Joseph Jefferson Lee. I believe that's actually Dorian, who only recently made his way onto the field. They've actually given that for throwing the ball away, which is pretty rough. Or it might have been for offside as well in the process. Okay. They've actually given that as the penalty there for offside. That's about 10 metres out from the line. Impressive from young Chanderpaul on debut. Good to see the West Indies Academy producing quality cricketers still. Exactly right. He is looking like a very handy player for them. Hopefully in future he does just continue to get those opportunities, because there's so much similarity between him and the way that his dad played, and his dad was a brilliant cricketer. Chanderpaul's still got a bright future ahead of him. And you fancy to win the next game. I always fancy South Africa in 7th, but I'm not sure. Last time Samoa beat them, not too sure. A long few months now. Weber just short of the line. Decided to place another penalty against France. That is 8 penalties to 0 currently that they find themselves sitting on. And like we saw there from Sam Dixon, a little bit of strategy was coming in there. He kicked the ball out of the French player's hands, kicked it about 10 meters in front of him, so he had to go get it. That uses up an extra like 15 or 10 seconds or so. Orman now making his way onto the field for New Zealand. Hopefully you get both New Zealand teams in the final. Says no, but New Zealand is too good, says Rice. So the next challenge will be up against either South Africa or Samoa. One of those two sides. Okay, Kurt Baker actually going to be going for the 3 points here. This is something we really see in a game of sevens. Like they're saying New Zealand fitness-wise, they know that their next game's only going to be taking place in about maybe 3 hours, 2.5 hours. Kurt Baker using up as much time as he can. The crowd are all booing now because Kurt Baker's used up 30 seconds on the clock. Gets the kick over. How's our Seven Sisters doing, Hamish? They have got the game up against the USA coming up in the near future. Okay, Kurt Baker just telling them all about why he decided to stall so long, but 20 points to 0, I should say, New Zealand leading over France at this current point of time. That's the full-time siren. So this will be the final play of the match in New Zealand. Probably going to kick this one off long. Doesn't need to use up any more time, Kurt Baker, as they have already used all of the time on the clock. They instead decide to go short. New Zealand try and slap it back. Amanaki Nikola goes to Shade Clark. He's going to run down the wing rather than going for the touchline. It's going to be forward, so that will be the end of the match, and it is going to end as 20 points to 0. But thank you all very much for tuning into this live stream. We are transferring straight over to Samoa versus South Africa, but we will see you all in a very, very short moment.